Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Keeping It Blunt podcast. Today we have a special guest. Graham, do you want to introduce our guest?
Yeah, sure. So, Dane and I have known each other for a long time, but I'm about to introduce you guys to someone that's probably one of my oldest friends that I've known. Known each other since grade art. Always known him as Clinton, but now we'll know him as Cebo Mpanza, Mr. Urban Zulu Warrior himself. Um,
Hey,
how are you doing?
I'm great, James. I'm great. It's a good evening. It's a good evening, man.
It is a good
Yeah,
evening.
it's it
Um,
has been a good evening. So
yeah,
let's just before we jump into anything, I just
Yeah,
touched on it there. Um, like I said, I've always known you as Clinton. Your
yeah,
real name, your first name rather, isn't Clinton.
yeah.
Do you want to just dive into that a bit quickly?
So like you said, the name, right? It's nothing crazy. It's nothing crazy. It's not like an alias or anything. I think just for that part of my life, I used my third name, instead of my first name, because my first name is Cebo Clinton. So you can imagine a grade R student, like
Yeah.
in five, um, to say Cebo Clinton, in a predominantly white school. I think,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
decision, again, that decision wasn't mine. It wasn't mine to make. My mom just felt, hey man, let's make things easier. Preferred name Clinton, and that kind of just went through
Can
primary
we?
school. It's yeah, carried me, high school, and then varsity came where I'm doing my own applications, and I'm like, nah, it's
yeah,
just first name based. Let's make it easier. I
yeah,
don't want to have to explain that. Oh, no, it's actually my third name. So, and yeah, just again, I guess it was like a fresh start in a sense. I mean, you're in a new city,
Yeah.
you have the opportunity to introduce yourself for the first time, however you want to introduce yourself,
yeah,
and first name basis, man.
yeah.
So
That
yeah,
makes a
go
lot
ahead.
of sense.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear stories like that, I always think one of our we've got a guest coming up in the future, um Kwezi Nopazolo.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
I always laugh at his story of when I think he was into Affis or PBHS or Grey Bloom, one of those schools, and he just was like, you know what, I'm tired of these guys butchering my name. I'm just going to tell them my name is Charlie,
I
and
still call him Charlie, bro. I don't know
and
why.
to this day we
It's just
still call
stuck.
him Charlie. Like it's just stuck.
I actually forgot about that, dude. At some stage, that I remember his alias was yeah, it was Church. I
It was
actually forgot
Charlie.
about
So
that. Yeah,
I always laugh at, and I was telling Clinton and I briefly chatted just before here, where I said, sorry, I just said it's I always found it funny, like how even Afrikaans people, they'll name, then the kid will have like his first name is like his dad's name,
Yeah,
but then
yeah,
just like call him by a second. Like I've got a family friend, her boyfriend, like I know him as Luke, but
yeah,
his first name isn't Luke. That's like his second name. But his first name is something else, which is his dad's name and his grandfather's name. But to
yeah,
avoid the confusion, they just
yeah,
like
so
why
yeah.
not
it's
just
Look,
call him Luke in the
and
first place? You know?
the thing is like name. But that's the nice thing. You can literally just be like, oh, just call me this, or I
yeah,
prefer
Mm,
like and it's I think it also like as you grow up, you just like I never used to. Whenever I used to write my full name, I would never include my second name. Not for any reason except that it's just like
you just didn't.
when you the my surname is long enough already. So it was always just one of those things. It's like I could like, but now you grow up, you're like, oh, well, that's part of your name.
Yeah,
it's
It's
part of
just
your it's part of your identity, and I think, um, the older you grow, the more you can choose, what you become.
yeah.
Um,
Especially once you
when we
finish
kid,
yeah,
school.
yeah. When we're kids, your parents make decisions on your behalf because you can't talk, you can't speak up. But also, once you start realizing the space that we're in the world, is that people need to get comfortable with saying African names.
Yeah, 100%. But that's
Um,
why it was something that I brought up with Graham earlier today. Just like be interesting to talk about from your point of view, like why
yeah,
you went
no,
with Clinton is the same
yeah,
reason.
no, yeah, no, definitely. And it's that thing of like not thinking on behalf of people that, oh, they probably won't pronounce my name right. So, no, just try it. Like, actually make people start to learn because we are in South
Yeah,
Africa after all.
Yeah, white
So
people
yeah,
make up like what 10% of our population, if that. Like,
yeah,
it's time to stop catering to white people who can't say names properly. It's
yeah,
ridiculous,
man.
honestly.
Yeah,
But on the name front, you sent us a question. It was also something that I spoke to Graham about. Where did
yeah.
Urban Zulu Warrior come from?
Yeah, dude. It's a okay. It was not a long story again, but quick summary is that in high school, I think about grade 11, grade 11, I was thinking of starting like a brand, right? It's like a clothing brand kind of thing.
Okay.
Uh, so the concept there was like, okay, you're like conquering your urban jungle, so therefore you're a warrior. Let's call it Urban Warrior, right? That never kicked off
Yeah.
because I just I fell short. I was like, nah, everyone's doing t-shirts, everyone's doing this. I left it. Then when I get to varsity, I moved to Pretoria.
Yeah.
I'm starting off at Tux, and I look at my Instagram, I'm like, oh, dude, you're studying marketing. I had so many ambitions, like of doing certain things in the creative space, and I'm like, what's something that's gonna just make me my personal brand like stand out? I'm like, I'm like, okay, Urban Warrior. I mean, that's still a thing. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
but now I'm from KZN and I'm in Pretoria, so what makes me just think is that I'm Zulu. I'm proud to be Zulu. So yeah, Urban Zulu Warrior.
Just makes you stand out a little bit there. Yeah, no, that's sick. That's a really cool
I
little...
mean, I think as far as like Instagram handles or names go, it is quite one of the more unique ones.
Yeah,
Um,
it's iconic,
it's
bro. It really is.
yeah. I think that like I still think my favorite when it comes to Twitter names, you can't beat Kamane Shamsi.
Oh
He's
yeah,
Bro,
got
yeah.
his
his change all the
he,
time. It's unreal.
he's undefeatable. Like you can't.
Oh, yeah. No, no,
He's
definitely.
so good.
Yeah, no, definitely there. But yeah, man, again, I think it's once you talk about like personal brand and stuff, again, you can play around there. I mean, you have your formalities where you have a job application and obviously you use your
Yeah.
first name and whatever.
Yeah.
But then you also have a space like social media where you also create like kind of a personality for yourself. And
Yeah.
yeah,
If
I
I,
guess.
if I think of my Instagram handle, which is literally just my first and second name, Graham Shaw, I use
Yeah,
that username for pretty much everything now, and I've never
yeah,
once had it been taken
I mean,
exactly.
fair enough,
because
yeah.
I've got firstly like my names themselves aren't like wildly popular,
Mhm.
and secondly they both different spellings of how they are
Yeah,
supposed to be
I was about
spelled. So
I
like
was
because
about
they're both unique both my names have got the unique spelling. I've never once had it been taken.
yeah, you'll never fight over that. No, because I also don't like this is a personal preference. I don't like having numbers like random numbers
Yeah,
in
no,
my
I've never understood people that do that, bro. I'm
and
like,
yeah, and I
why?
mean sometimes I get it. There's a lot of Michael Smiths in the world, so
Yeah.
you're gonna be Michael Smith 10 1 or whatever, something
The
random.
word it's the random numbers for me though. Like if it's like you're gonna pop in like a 1998 or maybe
Yeah, yeah, I
your
get it.
your
Yeah,
birthday to something, or like you're gonna chuck like a favorite number or something, then fair
yeah,
enough. But if you're just gonna be like
yeah.
3,742, just
I
find
Whenever
something
remember.
else.
whenever I see one
Well,
that's got like a number with more than three numbers and it's not like a
I'm
year,
like,
I'm like, why?
oh,
Like,
And
but again, I remember it's better though than I remember probably in high school people used to like putting 69 just for
oh,
bands.
yeah,
69 for 20.
69, 420, 69.
Oh, man. And you
I
look
mean,
back now, you're like, oh, what were you thinking? What were
Oh,
you
Dave,
thinking?
is your iPad password still what it used to be?
yeah, bro, 0420.
Okay. So we're gonna say yeah. So yeah, I'll ask before I say what it was just in case, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
no.
putting it out there. 0420 was day. You used to think you were the shit though as well with
Yeah,
that.
bro, but we all did. Like we spoke
uh,
about it in our in the last episode about
handing,
how
handing
school
that thing
was
around the physics class. Oh, what's the password?
Yeah.
0420.
0420, bro.
Yeah, of course. There was an era where certain things were the it thing,
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is like,
and 420 was one of them.
especially at that sort of
420,
like
69.
grade
Yeah.
11 matric age when people are starting to figure it out. It's like this,
It's very
oh,
yeah.
wow. Oh, yeah.
I
But
get
yeah,
it, man.
like I like what you were saying about like how social media is like a place to just sort of create your own sort of. It's like it's a different personality for me. My social media is very much a character at the moment. Like
Of course.
I went for a long phase where I just didn't post on it, and then obviously I started doing YouTube stuff and realized that there's this whole world of the internet and all of this. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, well, everything now is just like a character. And my mom actually called me out the other day after listening to one of the podcasts, and she was like, "Why do you have to swear so much? Whatever. What if you go for a job application?" Da, da, da." I'm like, yeah, like I understand where it comes from, but like if people are gonna judge me based on what they see on social media, I almost don't want to associate with them that much.
Yeah,
Like if you're seeing social media as like real life and making a judgment on a person
Yeah.
based on these snapshots, it's hard. It's a tricky,
Yeah.
it's a fine line, I suppose.
it's a
Yeah,
slippery slope.
I guess there's two sides of that. Because I mean, there there's certain things and certain views that obviously are your own, you
Yeah,
know. And often people, I think, they use the whole but it's just social media as kind of a
Yeah,
back foot. But like,
yeah,
obviously, you're thinking that obviously if you put it out there, you know, you want people to kind of have a reaction towards that.
yeah, 100%.
So yeah, there's definitely a thin line. There's definitely obviously just banter where it's like,
Yeah,
guys,
I
I'm gonna
think I think
I do this, but like when it comes to obviously when companies look at like political, they look at your racial views,
yeah.
etc.
yeah,
And if
and
you're
I
gonna
I
trend,
try and keep that stuff off my social media
yeah, of
anyway.
Well,
course,
we
Um,
spoke about that before we started the podcast. We're like, are we going to touch on these issues? And we kind of made the decision to not necessarily ignore it, but basically we had to we either talk on it on everything
yeah,
or nothing, because you can't you like if we were to come out one day and talk about like how I don't know, like Harry and Meghan getting kicked out of the royal family, like how that's such a scandal. But then next week something happens where there's police brutality or gender-based violence somewhere, and we don't talk about it, then
yeah, it looks
it's
bad. It's
it
kind
looks
of
really bad.
that's always been my thing
yeah,
when it comes to these things. Is it's like they're all human rights issues. I don't see them as political issues. There's most of them.
Yeah,
There's not really space to have an opinion. It is like
yeah,
it's been fucked up for so long that people just believe the wrong thing, and it's like
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
educate. So, like rather than speaking out about whenever these movements come, like back in the day, I used to obviously post and just get caught up with the whole movement. Now I prefer to just personally educate myself on it because I would feel like a fraud if I'm like calling out people in America for being racist and whatever when we live in South Africa where it's still such a big
yeah,
topic, and
yeah,
like defending like gay people's rights without understanding it properly and trans people and all of that. Like I don't
yeah,
understand it enough for me to feel like my opinion's valid, which I think
yeah.
is
yeah,
a big problem with people just throw their opinions on social
Well,
media.
I saw something quite a while ago, and it's something that I always choose to basically live by when it comes to issues that you don't necessarily understand, and like historically, it's been a bit of an issue. It's
yeah,
the best apology is change behavior.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
yeah,
like,
100%,
if you, because again, someone who historically has said some unsavory things can come out and say, "Oh, I'm sorry," but until they change, like, they're
yeah,
still going to act that way. Then
And you can't expect that to happen overnight. You've got to
no,
show
you can't.
for a prolonged period of time. And it sounds
yeah,
like a ridiculous example, but Logan Paul, I think, is a very good example of that. In that in 2017, there was that whole, was it 2017? With the
Yeah,
Suicide Forest and all of that. And everyone
yeah,
hated him, man. Like he was on mainstream
yeah.
news, like it was bad. And he went on, he got worse before he got better. But now, 3 years down, three, four
People
years
have
down the
changed their
line,
tune on him.
people have like
yeah,
been watching his content recently, like the last year or so, and being like, hang on a second, this guy actually changed. Like his content
Yeah.
isn't the
yeah,
same. He's not. He's actually learned from it. And he's speaking about these issues from a very educated perspective.
that's a
Um,
point.
yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
if you saw that stuff recently about like it was on one of the Tux meme pages, Tux Faculty of Memes,
Mm-hmm.
with
Yeah,
regards to the whole super straight gender identity and people saying they wouldn't date a trans person. And the guy who runs the page. He also does a podcast, and he got called out for basically people with like there was a group, a Turks group called Up and Out, which is like the Turks LGBTQ community, and they basically called him out for not him being transphobic, but the conversation being transphobic. So he actually did a podcast recently. It's really good. If you want to learn more about these issues, I'm going to shout about the Ground Floor podcast by JC Stain. That the episode with Odinga, I believe is his name. He's the chairman of Up and Out. And they basically just outline like not necessarily like how to navigate the political correctness surrounding the LGBT community, but just why certain things are offensive and why like why they what's perceived as a double standard isn't necessarily a double standard because of like the history behind certain things. So like it was a really like I listened to the whole thing.
I might give that a listen sometimes.
Yeah,
because I think like my thing, with all these topics and like people get very offended and like call people out and the whole cancel culture thing.
Yeah,
I think it's very difficult because like the three of us in this conversation seem like people who do like to learn about it and try and understand it rather than just throwing out a half-assed opinion. But the problem comes is like because it's been such a problem for so long, we were brought up not educated about it. We don't know like what terms are slurs. Like we get told about the N-word and in South Africa the K-word. There's like a few things that they outline for us, but it's like there's so many different communities and stuff that get offended by things that it's how when you're not educated on it in the school process or at any stage in your life, and it's only really been the last sort of 5 years or so where it's really become a mainstream thing. Like the education needs to come first. So when someone fucks up, rather than calling them out and saying they're transphobic or whatever, rather use it as an example and be like, okay, we understand that you guys don't learn about this. This is fucked up. Don't say this stuff. This is why. And anyone with half a brain or with half a little bit of empathy will understand that and they'll learn from that and not use said words or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest factor in all of it is like if I'm prepared to learn, teach me.
Yeah.
But I think there is a genuine shift in like people are speaking out more and like stuff's being called out.
The conversation is being had. That's for sure.
And I think that's the important thing is it's conversations. It's not let's just get rid of this person immediately. Like
I don't know, Clinton. Graham and I have just been waffling about this. I don't know what you think about any of this.
Dude.
It got quite deep.
Like complete another conversation. Wow. Sure. Cancel culture thing as it's so damaging that there's no room for, even if you do suggest that people must get educated on stuff, because already, people are like, oh, you're an apologist, oh, you're this, you're that, not understanding fully that, guys, at the end of the day, we understand this is fucked up. They're fucked up. What they did say was transphobic, or was this and that. Also, give the person the information, and what they do from then on should determine whether or not you cancel them. Like, I mean, if you've told someone all this stuff and I mean they still carry on, then
like you've got to give we're human at the end of the day. We are all gonna fuck up, and if you don't give someone the information, how do you expect them to sort of execute
that's the biggest issue a lot of educated people have with cancel culture is you want people to like the whole chat is that people should learn and become more educated and stop being ignorant. But they like society doesn't like will call you out for mistakes you made years ago.
That's another that's another whole ball game though. Like
people will dig up old tweets out of context that can just sink you, and it's like, well, I might have said that when I was like 14. Do with it, but
Okay.
yeah,
Let's.
we waffling. We waffling.
We
Let's
got
move.
very. It got onto a topic that I didn't see coming at all. I'm sure Clint was like,
At all.
"What the hell?"
Okay.
That guy, I don't even know where that came from.
No,
Clinton,
gosh.
what have you been up to, bro? Like, I've hardly seen you since school. So
Yeah,
yeah.
man. Sure. I've been everywhere, hey. Been everywhere. So I did school for a bit, for a short stint. Very unconventional journey that I have. Did school, did tux for about 2 years. Decided to try and pursue other things, man. Just based on some personal reasons, and what was going on at the time. And I found myself firstly job hunting, 2019, mid 2019, started working at this like startup agency. So, hey, man, I'm in marketing. Let me just get
marketing.
it.
Yeah, cool.
Get confused, hey. So I'm in marketing. That's something that's always just been a passion of mine, and I just always saw myself being in that space. So yeah, I literally tried it out. I was doing photography. I was filming some stuff for a YouTube channel called Defining.
Okay.
And I stumbled up on this opportunity of being on a reality show.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you
Yes,
about
I
this.
forgot about that.
Yeah, being on a reality show called The Next Brand Ambassador. It was sponsored by Cavitech. And literally, I saw this thing on Twitter. They were like, "Yo, man, if you a marketer, if you're creative, if you this," you're like, "Yes, that's me.
Yeah.
Yes, yes."
It's my time.
Yeah, are you between 18 and oh, yes, yes, yes. And for the first time, for these kind of things, is that it wasn't like a thing of like, oh, you have to have a qualification and do this and that. So already I had like this kind of confidence that, hey, man, I could do this. So
Yeah.
I sat on that post for minutes because you had to send in a 1 minute video of yourself answering a couple of questions and then your CV too. So it literally, entry is open for like a week. Good 4 days of that week. Of a 7 day week, I was literally just like thinking, nah, dude, you can't do this. Nah, you can't do this. Nah. Why? And finally, day five, here I was sitting in front of my camera and I'm like, hey guys. So I answer all these things. I edit this video, edit it nice to put some footage here and they pull this, do that. And I remember sitting there on Sunday, the deadline was Monday, clicking submit and be like, okay, whatever happens.
Yeah.
It's out of my hands now.
It's out of my hands now. So a week later, I get a call saying, yo, dude, you shortlisted in the Joburg top 10 for 1,000 entries, I think. I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, we're starting filming this Thursday. Go first episode. So they've challenged like a whole week, right? And then at the end of the week, you present in front of judges. And yeah, I get kicked. So they're choosing 5 people in Joburg. And they're still going to go to Durban and Cape Town. So they're taking 555, basically, ideally. And then I get knocked off. I'm not part of the top 5. I'm like, okay. Hectic. Gets into I'm like, yeah, it's done, we'll try again. It's all good, And
top 10 is still decent. Considering you almost didn't do it as well.
And it's like it's an experience and you meet some people.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was a big thing. Already for me, it was such a big win that like, yo, dude, I'm the youngest here. I'm 20.
Yeah. That's something I noticed when I watched the show. Like I was like, yo, like he is young. Like everyone here is significantly older.
Experienced, all these different things. You're like, yo, dude, what am I even doing here? How do I even make it here? And then so the competition was going to carry on in Cape Town. There's going to be a top 12 nationally. And 2 weeks later, after I kicked off, I get a call. I'm like, okay. And they say, dude, basically, judges made a decision to bring you back as a wild card and go straight to Cape Town. What the hell?
What?
I remember in the show they made it quite dramatic as well. I remember.
Yeah, it was a very traumatic entry.
When I remember in the show they phoned they show you like filming yourself picking the. I was like, yo, they're asking this man a lot right now.
More
Hey,
production
man.
going into that than there was into Love Island.
So I get asked, are you available for the next 3 months or the next couple of months? Because obviously I don't know what the outcome of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm just chilling. So, head over to Cape Town, and week after week, it's challenge after challenge, solving marketing problems. And then we later got into kind of solving real life, like, problems that, well, I wouldn't call them problems, but just how can we do this better as a banking brand, and each team would have to present something in front of a panel of judges weekly, and someone gets sent home, and I just found myself week by week surviving. Surviving, literally. I think so much happened on that show, and I learned so much just about myself and the world around me.
I enjoyed the structure of the show because I know we'll obviously get there, but eventually there isn't just one winner.
Yeah, there were three winners.
Which I always thought, like, watching the final episode, I was like, yo, this is pretty cool because it's one, like, especially for what the opportunity was, to just limit it to one particular individual would seem a bit harsh. Like, it was quite a decent structure, and I think like it's something you would probably like to see more in like in TV shows and like stuff like that. It's just like the resources are there to give more people opportunities.
Yeah, bro. There's something about, like, you can't say teamwork and like you're gonna be part of a team and then not display that,
Yeah.
Can't say teamwork and give the prize to one guy.
That's
all along you've been working team, and then like it's like boom, done.
That's what I was about to say as well. Like the whole point of marketing and like even corporate today is it's very team driven. So to have a competition where you're working as a team, but ultimately one winner, it's just never going to work. So we chatted about. So obviously, like we just mentioned, there were 3 winners. But let's talk a bit about how you got to the final. Like you said, challenges after challenge, like you just found yourself hanging on a bit. So let me ask, like, how does it? Let me ask this, like, how does it feel when you're standing there and it's like, okay, someone's getting eliminated right now?
Yeah, my boy. I think my heart is always in my head. Beating, literally. But I think part of what makes it challenging is that sometimes you feel like you shouldn't be in the room. Like it's that imposter syndrome. You constantly like, yo, dude, like, am I really doing this? Like, is this really me? Like, am I really gonna make it? So you're constantly questioning yourself because you're like, yo, but so and so is better than me, but so and so does this, and you often you often forget why you actually made it there. Like, dude, you wouldn't be this far if you weren't good at what you're doing. So I guess it's just it's like constantly being aware of that. I think that was one of the biggest challenges I faced, and but it's a year or 2 later, it's much better now, dude. Much better.
Can you hear?
Wait.
I know. Yeah, I can hear you guys now. Just, in terms of consistency, let me keep the headphones on. Even though they're off.
Yeah.
But let's keep them on just to stay consistent. Yeah.
So I was saying
some of the things you also recognize on TV is that, like, if someone, I don't know, if like sometimes you wouldn't use your own phone, right? So let's say I'm holding someone else's phone and I'm on a call, and then all of a sudden now that person leaves and have to use another phone. It's like on TV, so the director would always be like, only 1,000 people out of the 100,000s are going to see this. So it doesn't matter, just carry on, but it's definitely something I noticed because, I'm just very attentive.
Like you see those small little details, like when something changes. It's like,
I think the eagle-eyed viewers are in for a treat because I started this podcast with only one of my earphones in. So,
Yeah.
I was gonna say like the night of the final.
Yeah.
Is it literally like because they literally just call out one by one? This person's one of the winners. This person's one of the winners. I remember they distinctly go through each individual, like our strengths, weaknesses.
Yeah.
Like this is what you were good at. This is what you improved on. Like, how are you standing there in the final? And when you hear, oh, this person's what? Is that honestly the first time that you hear these people are the winners, or is it like a just that's it?
Yeah, definitely. That's it. That's literally it.
So you're standing there. It's the night of the final. What was it? Final 6, 7?
Final 5. Yeah, final 5.
Final 5. And so you're obviously, like you said, you were the youngest person there by quite a few years, I think.
Yeah.
So while you're sitting there or standing there waiting for these results, like what's going through your head at that point?
Yeah. I think, so everyone's getting their feedback individually and stuff. And I think for me, getting to that point was already a win. Like, I was really content with however way it would go, because I was like, dude, you made so much progress and made so much growth. Like, already, it's just a personal win. I remember a friend of mine asking me, I think it was a week or so before, he was like, what does winning look like to you? And I was like, yo, I think
it's a tough one.
Yeah. Like, yes, you're on the show. Yes, there's a prize, but like, what does winning look like for you? And that's the thing, is that sometimes we think about what the grand prize is and whatever, but a win is how you feel, like how you take it. It's like that picture where I think the kid came third, but he's so happy.
Yeah.
But kid number 1 is crying. Because so happy we didn't win.
Yeah.
If you felt like you've grown, you've made all this progress, like that's how I felt at that point. It's like, yo, dude, 1, I don't stutter anymore in front of camera, in front of judges, all this pressure. Getting better at dealing with my anxiety, my nervousness, all these things, all these boxes that I ticked for myself. And I was like, dude, this is really a win. Like, I really, like, yes, it would be a cherry on top to be part of the top 3. But for me, it's a really a win.
Just being on that stage, especially considering like you were out not early on, but like quite earlier on, and then you got sort of fast tracked into it again.
Exactly. The whole journey.
Like, it must have been such a roller coaster of emotions through all of that time.
It's like, dude, how often does this happen? So like, I was so chill.
Also, ultimately, at the end of the day, when there's thousands of applicants, like, how different is 4th and 5th from 3rd? Like,
it's literally just the prize.
Like, when there's that many applicants, and it's just like, I think it, like you say, it's, I mean, I'm gonna relate it to myself, because it's like, I do find some sort of, like, I can relate to it, to the what does winning look like in that. So like, obviously I've just finished my honors degree in accounting, but the journey to become a CA, as I would have spoken about in the previous episode, it's a 7-year journey. You finish year 4, you get that honors degree, and you kind of like, okay, well, it's what I felt looking back now. I feel a bit better about it, but it was kind of like I was more relieved than anything else. I was like, it was quite an underwhelming experience, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And
I think not having a proper graduation and stuff probably is added to that.
That adds to it to an extent, but like, it's like
that wasn't the end goal.
but the way I look at it is like, if you win the qualifying heat for the 100 meter in the Olympics, you still got to go win the whole race. Like, you got to go win the final, and that's like, that's basically where I'm at now. It's like, getting the degree was like, okay, I've won the semi-final.
You've qualified now.
Now you still got to get over the line, and so like, why I say I can relate is, a lot of people will look at that and be like, oh, well, you've got 2 degrees, like, that's a win. But it might be like, it is a victory, but it's not the victory.
It's not your idea of what winning is, like Clinton was saying.
Whereas like, but again, like I said, last year when it happened, I was like, oh, this is just a formality now. Like it's happened. Whereas now that I've had time to think about it and have clarity and just put things into perspective, I'm like, you know what, shit. Like that's something to be proud of. Like
it's a big
and just like you with being content with the result going either way, I think even now more so you can sit back and think,
shit,
you might have not won the show, but you still had a victory.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a big thing. Is that again, I did it for the love of what I do, for the field that I'm in. So just having that whole experience and still being able to tell the story afterwards is always just mind blowing. Whenever I tell people the story, like, what the hell?
It's such a cool story. But I just want to touch on. Sorry, Graham. I just want to touch on. So you mentioned there that like at that point when you're standing on the final stage, you've already in your mind you've already won. Whether you win the show or not, you've already ticked off all these things. And you mentioned like your anxiety and your like stuttering in front of cameras and stuff. So is that something that you struggled with quite a bit at the beginning? And like, how did you go about overcoming those things?
Sure. I think there's a certain thing when you know that there's possibly hundreds of thousands, even, I don't know, millions of people watching.
Yeah.
You're like, yes, there's only 10 people in this room, but like, dude, there's so many other eyes watching. Like, automatically my brain is thinking like, oh, don't say this. Or, how are you going to say this? Already I'm like, kind of like, I want to say it the right way,
And I'm pretty sure you in the back of your mind, hey, if I say something now, Twitter's gonna take my name.
Yeah, the boys are watching, bro.
You look at,
you go, oh my goodness, oh yeah.
The rag stumbled over his words in one episode of Love Island, and the man was memed. Like,
you get what I mean? And
yeah.
So those are the kind of things that run through your head. But even just, I think in general, I was a person who just, I think, like, yes, I was in high school, like, you wouldn't like notice it because I'm doing like stuff like public speaking and this and that, but people don't know how long it takes you just to get yourself you actually do it, know. And now you're on a stage where you can't prepare. It's not a prepared speech. It's not something I've rehearsed.
You like off the cuff, reacting to what's happening on the stage.
Yeah, and it's a different ball game.
Yeah, it's a different ball game. And like already, if you're a person that has like panic attacks and stuff, dude, it's a nightmare. But
I mean,
again, I think the progression just got with more just trusting myself, trusting what I was saying, and that what I'm saying is valid, and other people don't catch it, they don't catch it, but it's coming out of my mouth. And
I mean, you know that you're there, and you know what you're doing. Like you're there for a reason, and it's hard sometimes to be like you said, that imposter syndrome. Especially, I can imagine being the youngest of all these people. These people have all done all kinds of shit. They've been working in the industry, and you just like little pipsqueak on the block. Coming throwing in your 5 cents, and it obviously was a bit more than 5 cents worth considering where you got to, but I can only imagine how you felt at the beginning, especially.
Do you think that getting more comfortable with those, like you said, like there might only be 10 people in the room, do you think getting like more of a personal relationship with them, getting a bit more comfortable with them helps you open up, like trust, not open up, but like just you're not really, you kind of just forget about them. And you kind of like you or not forget about them. You isolate what you're speaking to them and forget about the rest.
No, definitely. I think once you obviously get used to week in, week out, recording almost every day, it starts to become a routine.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I've never done to like going on, like I've never had to be on the camera for like most of the majority of the day. So yeah, it does come with just. It's like any routine, There's that.
The more you do it, the easier it gets.
The more you do it, the more naturally it comes. That's why people who've been on TV for years, they're like effortless. Like if you wake them up at midnight, be like, "Hey, present the news."
They can just do it. Yeah.
I mean, I think about Dane and I on this pod. I mean, this is probably like episode 8 or 9. Dane.
This is 9. Yeah, this is 9.
9. I mean, if I think back to our first episode was a bit. First episode doesn't count because it was just episode for episode's sake. Our first episode with a guest, rather. I still said to Dane afterwards, I felt like it was like I hated that whole episode just because I felt like I wasn't myself. Just felt so uncomfortable being on the camera, and now it's like I think I even tweeted out when we released our first episode. I mean, Clinton, you'll know from back in primary school. I was that kid that come oral time, I was in tears.
Hey, man.
I was in tears. I was outside.
Yeah,
outside the classroom. I'm like, I don't want to do this. And then like you just whereas now I'm like I hop on the webcam now with Dane, and it's
just like chatting at the pub, basically.
Literally, the episode we recorded on
Monday.
On Monday was we didn't even have a plan.
Yeah, we just turned on the cameras and started recording.
And I think to myself, it's like when we started this podcast, I would never have imagined I would just be able to do that so effortlessly. But like you say, it's just. That's why I asked about the comfort thing, because obviously Dane and I, it's really easy to talk to.
Yeah, we've known each other forever.
Yeah. And I think it's also just that routine getting, because then our next guest episode, after the one where I said I just didn't enjoy it, was literally, I think Dane, I think you think it's our funniest episode, Dane, the one with Nikki.
With Nikki, yeah, I think it's one of our funnier ones.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it was like a complete like chalk and cheese.
Yeah. Okay. So Clinton, that was a couple of years ago now that you did that TV show.
Yeah.
So what have you been up to? I mean, obviously without giving too much away that we don't want to speak about.
Implicate anyone. But
yeah.
Really, after that, really did open some opportunities for me. To also just work in the corporate space. I think during 2020, got an opportunity to work in corporate and type of thing. And been doing that since.
It was the corporate side of marketing. Is that where you always wanted to go? Or is that just sort of where you found yourself finding the opportunities and you're just running with it at the moment?
Yeah, man. I think it wasn't where I thought I was. I think I had this idea in my head of what I wanted to do. And I kind of just landed up there and just ran with it. I think it's also just making it my own again. There's always this perception of like corporate SA and this and that and that.
Yeah.
But it's really at the end of the day making whatever you do, adding your own flavor, your own personality.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It comes through in your daily interactions with people. Like, oh man, you're so cool, so chill, this, that. So yeah, definitely.
So like, when you're not at work, bro, what's because I saw you drop that TikTok doing like the voiceover test. That was banger. I enjoyed that.
Outside of work and outside of just being a serious gent, man. One, I'm just a clown, dude. I mean, I'm just.
This man has always been one of the biggest jokesters.
Besides that, I think I'm really interested in voiceovers. I think in that time where I was trying to figure out what to do in my life, I explored that and I did a couple of voiceover work. So yeah, definitely voiceovers. Photography is something I still do. Fell off a bit, but I guess again, it's just when you do trying to do two things at once, you start to lose focus.
Yeah.
Really, I was always just focused on trying to sort out this main hustle kind of thing, and then now it's like I have opportunity to explore this and that. So playing around with voiceovers, definitely. Playing around with the camera will always be a first love of mine. And yeah, I think just really trying to figure myself out and trying to, because I think what I realized is that we're so young.
But like one day I think I'm like a grandpa and my life's over. The next day I'm like, I'm fucking 22, my whole life's in front of me. We've got this.
Literally.
And I don't want to regret not doing certain things because I'm out of time that I have to be serious. I have to. So I mean, if I wake up tomorrow and be like, hey guys, I'm done with this. I can still bounce back, you know, the same way
Yeah.
I did back then was that
Yeah.
I thought it wasn't working for me. It's trying something else. That doesn't work. I still have time. I think not putting a time frame to things and being like, at this age, you need to achieve this, by this
Yeah.
age, you get, and just
It's
like,
so important, dude. Especially when you look, like, I just look across our grade at how many different
You're-
positions people are in. It's like, it's
dude,
unreal, dude. Like, some people are like running their own businesses, some people are just starting,
man,
going to varsity. Like,
dude, like, I can't even keep up with like everyone, but I mean, just in general, when I think of, like, I'll make an example, like, we talk about leadership, like,
mm,
I was in leadership position, but in varsity, I wanted nothing to do with that.
yeah,
And then you get someone like Shamsi, come on, where
yeah.
literally no he's just in high school, but now in SRC, you know?
Literally,
Yeah.
when I came
But
to
he was-
Pretoria, he was like president of college. I was like, what?
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Shamsi? Like,
You know
boss,
what I mean?
bro.
Like, that's just an example of like you should never let what you've done like at a certain period of your life define you.
Mm,
Yeah.
Just because you matriculated prefect first team rugby, this doesn't mean you're gonna play Springboks and do this.
exactly.
Well, I mean, another example is one of the guys that I studied with, that I went to school with, who good academic at school, was in the top 10, whatever, ended up graduating our undergrad cum laude. Like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, you should never like box yourself in. But there's so many.
nah.
Like,
There's so
people, you're gonna find there's so many things to do in the world these days, and I
Yeah.
think that's one gripe I do have with school is they kind of push you into these sort of like directions that they want you to go.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
I look back now and I'm just like, man, I wish I'd sort of realized that entertainment and music and all of that, there was actually career opportunity in it. Because I
It's
just, in
one of
my
those
head, there was
things-
just no chance. Like, I had no
Like-
chance of doing it.
you shouldn't have you shouldn't have to go to varsity or go to like a tertiary institution to learn the arts and to learn like video
No,
editing and
no.
stuff like that.
in anything.
I mean, I've taught
Like-
everything I know about video editing just on YouTube.
YouTube,
Like,
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like you think about like guys who outside of the norm of what would be like what school tries to force you into to go study, like why like you should be able to do more of that stuff at school.
yeah,
Even if you don't have a teacher teaching it, like you said, then you've learned so much on YouTube.
so much.
Just
Dude.
give
Like,
just
everything I know about anything to do with making a video, I've
like
learned from YouTube.
what's so wrong with instead of making some kids sit through the flipping geography lesson because they have to take a science,
yeah,
like let them go learn how to edit a video.
Dude, honestly, it's one of those things because I was always so against it because obviously Jono went to AFTA and like studied
Yeah.
film and all of that. So like he was speaking about all this stuff the whole way through school, and I was
Yeah.
just like, no, I don't care, like, I don't care, because he was obviously speaking like the movie Hollywood like layer
Yeah.
of it. I didn't
Yeah.
even know that the internet existed in the way it does.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that people could actually make money just making like doing stuff like this, just talking to their friends and having a good time with their friends. Until
Literally.
last year, bro. Like literally until last year, I had no concept of what the internet had, and I was
Yeah.
like, I started editing, and I was like, this isn't so bad. Because before that, the only time I'd ever done that was grade 9, that movie maker project we did on our
Yeah.
behalf, and that was a load of shit. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't care. I was like so against it. I was like, computer lessons, I don't care about this. It's the wrong way to teach it. And there's just so many things that we don't get exposed to in school
yeah.
that the world
Yeah.
needs at the end of the day.
yeah,
Like, yeah,
That's what I'll never understand this like the school structure definitely suited me as an individual,
yeah, same.
but
it could've
like
suited me
the
better.
direction I've gone in life, it definitely it suited me.
yeah,
But like I'll think of like guys who wanted to do music at school, but couldn't play guitar because college never
A guitar teacher, yeah.
So he ended up not doing music at school. I'm just like that. Like obviously you can't expect to be like every individual person be handed stuff like that. But
I mean, I just think the fact that our grade was the first grade that had the option to do music for matric is also just crazy, because before we got there, college was like priding themselves on all like the trios and the quartets and stuff when we were in second and third form, like performing for the Queen and stuff. And like college's cultural department just wasn't there; it didn't exist. I think it's come a long way now. I haven't really followed it much. Obviously, COVID's fucked everything in terms of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think college is a very good school if you want to follow the straight line path that they want you to follow.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there's not many schools.
Wait,
not many schools.
I didn't hear what Clinton said. I don't know why.
Sorry, I was just saying that that's like every other school, you know.
Yeah,
true.
The schooling system itself, we don't like say but yeah, it's literally how it is, and that's how we've been. That's how we've grown up, like being told, okay, you need to finish school, go to varsity, get a job, do this. There's always been like a sense of structure. And if you if you fall outside of that, it's like,
yeah, like, and you feel weird. It's like, why am I not following this straight line path?
I mean, prime example, like you're literally working in marketing, and you like you said, you didn't finish your degree. Like,
I mean, literally only starting again to study now, you know. But it's that thing of I was told this that there's some things that you can't be taught in a tech. And I think that's what people realize.
I think marketing is one of those things, especially because it's changing every day. You've got to be up to date.
Yeah, there's just certain things that you can't teach someone. It's just they have it.
You've got it or you don't. Yeah,
you got it or you don't. You know, and yeah, that's literally it. I'm not bashing people who've gone to school for it, because I do realize there's obviously some gaps. There's a lot of things I've learned like in this past year already. That I'm okay. Actually, I couldn't have just done this. You know?
Yeah.
Technicalities to it and stuff, but for the most part of it, it is intuition. It is the type of clarity. It is your problem solving.
Yeah.
You think of it. It's this and that, and so you just can't be taught that. You know.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like the education system is just one of those things. Like, I understand why it is or it was the way it is now, but I just feel like it hasn't evolved with the times. While so much has changed in the world, the school system and the education system has remained the same for hundreds of years. And it just like you were saying, those things of like problem solving and intuition, instead of picking up on those things young, they'll be like, oh, you can't do math, so you're stupid, and like go do maths lit.
Probes that we can't.
I mean, I think to an extent, and I don't know, I think through no fault of their own, our education department is kind of, in a way, helping that mold slightly by lowering the pass requirements to an extent where it's almost laughable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, we know these kids like aren't going to get a chance out there without a matric. But at the same time, like I said, I don't think this is through any fault of their own. I don't think they're geniuses in this to this extent. And I don't think this was the intention. But by just sending people out there with these really low pass requirements, you're still equipping someone with a matric certificate. So it's,
like you said, those technicalities, like it's a key, it's a step
some
in the next
form of
direction.
qualification to their name. But like someone walking up with like a 30% maths mark, like they haven't retained any of that knowledge.
Yeah.
But they don't, like if you're going into the arts or you're going into marketing, you don't need that maths knowledge.
Yeah.
But sometimes you might need that matric certificate just to get your foot in the door.
No, of course.
And I think that's the important thing, is like a lot of people lose sight of that, is that as much as it mightn't necessarily be as necessary, it's not the be all and end all, but it gets your foot in the door.
It's the key to the next step. Like
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
people say they used their matric certificate once and it was to get into university. Then they used their degree once and it was to get their first job, and from there it was all experience. So like, uh, fixing the education system is a far better
Yeah.
job than my brain can comprehend right now.
Well, I
And
mean,
I don't think it's a topic. Yeah,
I haven't even updated my CV since matric
I did it the
because
other day because I was
I
just
haven't
like
had I
interested
haven't
to
had
see what
to.
I've done.
I signed my training contract with my current employer when I was 18 in matric. So
Yeah.
I haven't had to touch my CV in like
See,
nearly 4 years.
yeah, and I think that's also another thing is that there's certain careers where like, dude, you just have to have like a degree, like you have to go through articles, you have to,
Yeah.
because I mean you're dealing with people, like you're dealing with companies, millions,
Yeah,
universities, like you can't not.
Yeah.
have that
Because-
foundation. Yeah,
But again, I just wish like with the schooling system, you're just able to truly explore everything at your disposal.
100%.
Learn about these people, learn about this. So let kids like actually,
Try.
yeah. So it's
Let
not
them
like,
try while they're young. When if they
it's not,
can't do it, it's not a problem.
yeah, it's not like we're pushing this agenda of like, okay, everyone, we're gonna teach you, or yeah, we're gonna teach you about the universities and all your options. We bring in all these universities to come speak, but we're not bringing in musicians. We're not bringing in
Exactly. Yeah.
we're not bringing in content creators. We're not bringing in, because
Oh,
some kids literally they're so disinterested in a conversation because they're like, I don't fit in. Like I'm not
yeah.
gonna do this. I'm not gonna say this. So
But if you
why?
bring in like a big South African musician on the stage to speak to them, they'll be like, "Oh wow, look at this whole industry that's out there with like millions of people working in it that I could
And,
potentially get into."
Yeah.
and meanwhile, that kid probably has like a SoundCloud account. So
Yeah,
now he's actually gonna try to build on it because there's a story that inspires him.
yeah.
But then when was it the last episode where we spoke about this, or was it the previous one where I said like imagine like there's so like could you imagine if you've just got like this untapped talent that you just never get to? Did we talk about this, Dane?
I don't know if we spoke about it in a podcast or if we just spoke
Maybe
about it.
personally. I always said so. I always had this thing like I personally could be like the next best thing in curling at like the Winter Olympics, but I've never had that opportunity to play it. And
Yeah.
I feel like you like could you imagine like how many kids or like how many generational talents in certain aspects have just like been lost because they just haven't been exposed.
100%.
Definitely.
I always wonder like why does like how far away are we from like traditional schools partnering up with places like Squarespace, Udemy, these online learning platforms where they can actually you can simultaneously teach like you don't need the teachers
They provide
to
like a
teach
place of learning with like people to just guide you and how to use the technology
and
that's there.
yeah and and then you can still get still get decent assessed like you can still get assessed on it
Yeah.
To sort of see
where
a level. Yeah. I mean, I think we're living in very exciting times, especially seeing last year how everything went
Yeah.
fairly seamlessly online. Obviously, South Africa has a big problem in the like gap with wealth, and I don't know how the majority of our country carried on with education last year, but seeing how seamlessly the first world countries just moved life online, it really does. Like the future is going to be very interesting for us. I think.
yeah
I think it really just showed people that we don't have to all be in the same.
No, not really.
yeah
I think there's a lot of things that people got away with by saying, "Oh no, we did for this, or we have to for this." Whereas when you're in the world of literally formal at the top and your boxes at the bottom, it just shows that
yeah
actually company uniform, like a certain way of standing dressing doesn't affect a person's way of
No,
working.
not at
well
all.
yeah well I mean so for my first 2 weeks on my job I was doing work for a client in Cape Town
Yeah.
from my flat in Durban
Okay,
like
it just
Traditionally,
shows.
you would have to like fly down and work
yeah
physically.
Which would have been cool, I suppose. But
it would have been but like but in saying that if that was necessary I probably wouldn't have been given the work
true, True.
Exactly.
But because it's so easy to do, like
Yeah, man. There's a lot of things. Even like events. I mean, the event industry is big. Obviously, it's the certain things that you just can't do.
Yeah.
Actually, and that industry is obviously affected. But just seeing the shift in, like, at some stage, I think I used to have like 10 Instagram lives at once.
Yeah, like it's just
Yeah, there was so many influence celebrities, brands that jumped on that whole wave of like going on Instagram live because everyone's at home.
yeah.
And you have to still kind of reach people, and that's the best way. But again, large industries were affected, and obviously they couldn't like switch virtually and do stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, yeah, like a concert will never be the same.
There's good and bad of the whole
Yeah.
of the whole thing, but yeah.
I mean, obviously, yeah, the bad is the thing that gets focused on the most in the media and everything, and I got very swept up with it last year. But like when you look at all the good things, it's like, okay, now we've got this foundation to build off when things are back to normal. Like we can level up because we can save all this time doing this bit online. That when we're in
Yeah.
person, we've already finished that first meeting. Like the first meeting was done in an email.
Yeah.
We can just go straight to point 2, and yeah,
Exactly.
I mean,
And
Well,
just sanitizing more. Damn.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's good habit to get into.
that's a good habit. That's something we need to keep going
Yeah.
forward. Yeah. Wow.
Just keep sanitizer in open in public spaces. It would be nice.
Yeah.
Please.
And the social distancing, like don't come and stand right behind me in the queue. Like I have to pay,
Stickers. They need to keep those stickers on the food.
yeah, I have to pay before you can get to the till, no matter how close you stand
Yeah,
to me. I
bro,
still have to pay.
But just let us go to a concert and stand all on
Yeah.
top of each other again, please. I can't wait.
That's what I meant about like there's certain industries where it's just not the same. I mean,
Yeah,
live concert, a live like events, like a party. Yes, it's just not the same virtually, man.
it really isn't. But hopefully we'll be back there soon. Anyway, I think we should probably wrap this up. Clinton, I'm
Well,
so
do you want
sorry.
to go to the? Do you want to go? There's a couple of
Oh,
questions.
have you got some questions? I actually forgot about those.
A couple.
Yeah, go ahead, hit us.
Yeah.
So I've got one question here. Would you rather everyone in the world get 3 wishes and you don't, or only you get the wishes?
Well, look, if you had asked me this question probably a month ago, my answer would have been different. But no, I'm taking the wishes.
Yeah, I'm taking the wishes.
I think so
sorry,
too,
guys.
bro. I think so.
I'm taking the wishes.
Oh man, I'm not some no kumbaya. Nah.
This is from Nikki. Nikki Manchef. He wants to know if you can still sing as beautifully as you did 5 years ago.
Oh wait, yo, Nikki, literally prefix study. We used to have to, so I guess why he's asking me that.
Yeah.
I follow. Yo, it's again. This is how I usually explain it. It's like if you're an athlete, right, and you don't train for 5 years, what's the name?
Yeah.
I realized this is literally that because I mean back then we used to have like practice every week.
We were in choir every day, like twice a week, 3 times a week.
Yeah, every day actually.
Yeah, I can't sing anymore to save my life, bro.
Yeah, I can still can, but it's not the same. It's like, yeah, the natural flair is still there, but it's just not the same. Like the rain, same. Like now I'm croaky because I've been not going out. The lifestyle is the same, yeah.
Okay, so those are just the best questions we got from there.
Yeah, so I might even cut this in and put it at the beginning. So we start every podcast asking our guests, if you had to make a playlist right now, what would the first 3 songs you put on it be?
Oh man. It's crazy because I listen. People who know me, and people who know me know that there is a specific artist that I always play without fail. Like I think a week going it's called Brent Fayez.
Okay.
Literally some people like just get to know him because he was riding me in the car. We could literally be coming from groove. We're coming from a nice time. And I'll play this guy, and he's literally like an R&B kind of feel. Dude, you're killing the mood. So definitely a song called "Running on E" by Brent Faz on top. Then I'll put second. I'll put "What's Next" by Drake.
Okay.
And then third,
Everyone always starts off strong with the first two. Then comes to the third.
But you gotta pick one out of like.
You can't think of yo. I was literally about to cheat and put on my Spotify, but nah, let me not open my Spotify. No, think of it top of my head. So I've said Drake, I've said Brian Fires. It's yo. It's a tough one. Let's say, because I've been listening to it quite often, I will say, I'll take it back now. I'll say Lil Wayne, Mrs. Officer.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Just throw in something vintage, but it's hip hop. But yeah, so definitely.
Every time Dane and I ask ourselves this same question, it's always different.
Yeah, every day is a different three.
We literally, I think we even recorded an episode where we started off and we asked ourselves, like we answered it ourselves. Yeah. And then we had like a technical issue. Yeah. And then we had to record it again. And it was the same day, like same night. Yeah. And we literally, like 10 minutes later, we changed our answers.
3 different songs completely.
No. I would definitely change it. No, because something always pops in your mind. Oh, actually, that's what.
Yeah. Anyway, Clinton, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for dealing with our technical difficulties, because that's a staple. Yeah, it was good to chat to you again.
Nice to chat to you again, man.
Yeah, guys. Go and see Clinton on all the social media things. He's doing Urban Zulu Warrior. He's doing big things. He's making big moves. Yeah, it was a pleasure having you on, bro.
Follow us on Instagram, guys.
Let's go.